What's up, guys? Welcome back to Michigan Muckraker. My name is Michelle. Today is April 5th of 2023, and in this video I wanted to share with you an article coming out of Australia warning about the risks of lithium-ion batteries used in e-scooters, bikes, and cars, and this warning comes from the fire unions out of Australia. Before we jump into that, if you're interested in Michigan Industry 4.0 news or transhumanism, eventually I'll talk about transhumanism, or books, please consider subscribing. And if you like this video, if you find value in it, please hit that like button. And thank you very much for those of you joining me today. We're going to jump in. Hopefully everyone can hear me. And also, thank you very much to everybody who sends me information like this article. I greatly appreciate it. 2 minds are better than 1, 100 are better than 2, and etc. So send me information all you want. I greatly appreciate it, and I'll try to incorporate it into my videos as much as I can. Australia, not prepared for fire risk of lithium-ion batteries used in e-scooters, bikes, cars, say firefighters, and this came out the 1st of February, 2023. Australia is not prepared for the risk posed by lithium-ion batteries used in electric scooters, bikes, and cars, which have been linked to hundreds of fires across the country, a firefighters union has warned. More than 450 fires in Australia have been linked to the batteries over the past 18 months. Just over 2 weeks ago, David Owen's house at Broad Beach Waters on the Gold Coast was destroyed by a fire, which he said started in his garage where he stored an e-scooter. Mr. Owen said he heard a pop and saw a very small flame, but a lot of black smoke coming from the garage. I opened the door, squirted the fire extinguisher, and it exploded. Yeah, fire extinguishers don't work on lithium fires. Lithium battery fires. Those are the words. It just went everywhere. A cloud of very small red cinders. Oh, it's terrible. They lost their home. A Queensland Fire and Emergency Services spokesperson said investigations had indicated a failure of an e-scooter battery caused the fire. Investigations into what caused the battery to fail, are ongoing. I'd never seen anything like it. The scariest thing was the speed of it, Mr. Owen said. I'm going to show you before I continue on with the article. We're going to watch exactly what happens.
This demonstration shows what it looks like when a lithium-ion battery fails and sparks a fire, often because of faulty design or overcharging. Those batteries causing more than 200 fires in New York City alone last year, injuring 147 people and killing 6. And look at this battery catching fire and exploding next to a child.
Start of charge in 5, 4.
We met with researchers in Pennsylvania to see what happens when a lithium-ion battery is purposely overcharged and fails, starting a fire.
We are here with Steve Kerber. He is with UL's Fire Safety Research Institute. So, Steve, we're actually inside of a home built to burn.
We study how fire grows and spreads, and we purposely instrument it so we can figure out how to keep people safe for emerging technologies like this.
Kerber and his team outfitted this 1,600-square-foot house with everything you'd find in the typical American home. Then they rigged it with cameras and an array of sensors that measure heat and gases.
It's going to catch fire, it's going to release a lot of gas, and we're going to see an explosion.
Researchers removed the safety features on the battery to ensure it would fail. After 2 hours of overcharging the scooter, smoke. 17 seconds later, the explosion buckled the windows. This is what it looked like from the inside. 12 minutes later, the living area engulfed. It was too toxic for us to get into the home after the fire, but here's what it looked like inside after Kerber ran a similar test 2 weeks earlier.
Utterly destroyed and too toxic. Too toxic.
Happens so fast, doesn't give people a lot of time to react.
It's not just e-scooters and bikes. These batteries power electric vehicles. They're also used in energy storage systems to store solar energy. Hunter Clare and Justin Lopez experienced the force of a lithium-ion battery fire firsthand in 2019.
Originally, we thought it was a transformer fire.
The Peoria, Arizona fire captains responded to a call at a facility containing thousands of lithium-ion batteries used to store energy for the power grid.
You needed to make sure it was safe for the workers to go back into this building.
Exactly, so they could fix whatever the ultimate problem was. And as we went to leave at that point in time, it ignited, right? It blew up. I don't remember the explosion, don't remember anything from there.
The force blew both men under a chain link fence. Lopez landed 30 feet away, Claire 70 feet.
Where's he at?
The men nearly died. Both suffered brain trauma, broken bones, and multiple burns.
Really? This is what we want in Big Rapids, Michigan? This is what do you think our firefighters could handle this? And I'm not trying to degrade them in any way. I appreciate very much firefighters. I wish we would give more money to the firefighters. Around here where I live, the #1 threat is fire. And my neighbor has an e-scooter. It worries me. I would love for my money that I pay in taxes to go towards something that would directly help me and the people in my neighborhood, which is for fire. We need more fire trucks. Pay the firefighters well. They save us. And this is terrible. I don't want this to happen to more firefighters.
How are you doing today?
Doing pretty good, all things considered. Just happy to be alive.
They're now sounding the alarm that these battery failures can be lethal. In statements to NBC News, the battery industry says failures are rare and the technology continues to be a safe and cost-effective way to provide reliable, clean energy to consumers. And they are collaborating with emergency response governmental agencies to increase awareness. To avoid this, buy batteries that are certified by a lab like UL or Intertech. Don't overcharge batteries or leave them charging unattended. If you see smoke from the battery, get out quickly and call 911. Best practices to safely live with this new technology.
Or we could just not fully implement it and we could just avoid it altogether. All of these are avoidable. Electrochemistry professor Paul Christensen from Newcastle University in the United Kingdom started researching lithium-ion batteries in the 1980s and has consulted UK and Australian fire services. Don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of lithium-ion batteries, he said. Yeah, because you have to. But I believe they've penetrated far faster at all levels of our society than our understanding of the risks. What people had reported as being smoke was actually vapor cloud vented by the lithium-ion batteries, which is explosive as well as toxic. It's actually been an understated hazard. Professor Christensen said overcharging, overheating, physical damage, or even defects in the manufacturing process could all cause a lithium-ion battery to ignite. If that vapor cloud ignites immediately, you get long, rocket-like flames, 1,000 degrees centigrade, he said. Holy crap. I mean, you saw how fast that was. It was ridiculously 17 seconds. That's crazy. And it blew up. If it doesn't ignite immediately and the vapor saturates the surroundings, then you can actually get a vapor cloud explosion. Holy crap. Firefighters worried, says Union. The United Firefighters Union of Queensland General Secretary John Oliver said that there had been 27 house fires linked to electric vehicles so far this financial year. This is April. I had to think about it for a second. 4 months. Holy crap. 27 house fires. And just Queensland? I don't know how big Queensland is or any of that. We're not prepared for this because we're going to get more, he said. This isn't a normal fire. Fireys are worried about it. Mr. Oliver said lithium-ion batteries in cars particularly created a new layer of speed and haste. They're compartmented with these batteries in a sealed unit, making them hard to get to, he said. Petrol cars are a lot easier to put out. Mr. Oliver said no one's really getting into that space to say, right, how do we deal with that properly? If they go off in that car park basement, if the system goes off and it ventilates toxic gases, where does it ventilate them to? Does it go out to the street where people are standing? These new technologies and systems for charging are being retrofitted into buildings that never contemplated this type of vehicle. and we need to be very careful. Acting Queensland Fire and Emergency Services Minister Mark Furner said QFES had clear safety messaging in relation to lithium-ion batteries and electric vehicles on their web pages. QFES continues to closely monitor local and international incidents involving LIB, while turning to scientific research both locally and abroad to help better respond to fires of this nature, he said. We welcome the opportunity to work with the federal government and other states in developing guidelines. Australia, 10 years behind. President of the Unit Owners Association. Okay, hold on. How do you fairly allocate the charging infrastructure? He asked. Does everyone put in their own and have it all hardwired back into their own meter? Probably not. We might have 1 or 2 DC fast chargers, but he said homeowners needed to safely manage lithium-ion batteries. Right, how are you going to charge them? That's another huge problem. Lithium-ion battery, any lithium-ion battery can combust if it's not treated properly or managed properly, he said. What nearly all modern electric vehicles have is very competent battery management systems. The very early electric cars didn't have it, and none of these e-scooters have it. That's where the risk lies. I mean, Tesla fires happen all the time. Are you saying Tesla is the OG, right, of electric cars? Call for education. Professor Christensen said electric car fires represented a tiny percentage of fires and explosions compared to internal combustion engines, but remain challenging. Well, yeah, because of course there's way more internal combustion engines on the road still. So is that why they can say that? They can reignite hours, days, or even weeks later. If they put the fire out and then it reignites in a recovery yard and causes death or injury, then where does the legal responsibility lie? See, this is the thing, more and more problems that we never would have considered, and now we need to consider because do we really want to do this? Do we want to implement electric vehicles around the world? I have another article after this one about a boat fire that involved electric vehicles. Professor Christensen said a government-led education campaign was needed. Do not charge your electric bike or e-scooter indoors under any circumstances whatsoever. Do not charge them when you're out. Do not charge them when you're asleep. Do not charge them where, in any way, they impede your escape. That sounds like they're very dangerous, doesn't it? This is an article out of The Guardian. Call for new rules on batteries imported to Australia as global e-bike fire injury toll nears 100. Now, I know this isn't electric cars, but the batteries start on fire and hurt people, and the fires are very dangerous. Almost 100 people have been injured, and more than 50 fires started by electric bikes, e-scooters, e-skateboards, and hoverboards in less than 3 months, according to global figures from an Australian research group. EV FireSafe, which monitors electric vehicle risks, released the data on Tuesday after an e-bike explosion in New South Wales forced one man to jump from a second-story window to escape a blaze that started in his garage. An expert predicted battery fires and explosions from lightweight electric vehicles would get a lot worse unless new regulations and training was introduced to govern use and sale, and yet we're going full speed ahead, given hundreds of millions of dollars to push ahead with electric vehicle batteries. We need to ask ourselves, is this what we want? And if not, we need to use our voice and, I don't have it there, non-violent resistance, as Gandhi calls it. 13 incidents have been verified in Australia in 2023, she said, in which 13 people were injured. While the group was established to advise on electric car risks, Sutcliffe said electric bikes and scooters have proven to be a much bigger safety risk as their batteries were not subject to the same design rules, and also it's much cheaper. I mean, I could save up and get an electric bike, but there's no way I could save up, and I wouldn't buy either one. Because again, fire is my biggest fear here. We don't have tornadoes. Like, we're lucky in Michigan for the most part. We don't have tornadoes. No hurricanes or anything else. Fire is the number one element that I fear, and so I would never have an electric bike. But I could afford one, and I would have to save up for a little bit, but that's not that's no big deal. That's why there's a lot more problems right now with bikes, is because more people can afford them. Light electric vehicles are coming to market very quickly. They're typically drop shipped out of countries like China. They're making battery cells that are very poor quality, and they're combining that with a very poor quality battery management system. That means when the battery pack is charging or discharging, the battery management system is not able to stabilize the pack from a thermal perspective. University of NSW Sydney, Professor Dr. Matthew Priestley said, "These fires were particularly dangerous as they occurred suddenly, were difficult to extinguish, and created toxic vapor." Priestley, who is designing a lithium-ion battery training course for tradespeople, said Australia urgently needed new rules governing the important importation, approval, and use of batteries. Let's see, is there anything more about fires? We've had a massive problem coming, and firefighters are underprepared because the technology has leapfrogged our knowledge, not just here in Australia. So, batteries, EV batteries. I'm going to do this one first. We had a cargo ship fire, which the whole ship and all of the vehicles on it sunk into the sea, and I didn't hear a single peep from environmentalists. Not a peep. It's like when the government's killing all these chickens and you don't hear anything from PETA. Is it very selective? Of course it is. Did electric vehicle batteries contribute to a cargo ship fire? Of course. Electric vehicles are 60 times less likely to catch on fire. But with lithium-ion batteries, with lithium-ion blasts dominating the headlines, are these eco-friendly cars worth the risk? We'll see what this article has to say. I should have screened it better, perhaps. I don't know what Get Jerry is, so that's one problem. But we're going to look at the information, and we can take it or leave it. We don't have to agree with everything it says. We all know the future of the auto industry relies heavily on the success and innovation of electric vehicles, according to the globalist utopians. The benefits of owning an eco-friendly car are endless. Define eco-friendly. We often don't consider the possibility that the car we've spent our savings on could be dangerous and extremely flammable. What if these fuel-efficient and environmentally friendly cars pose an unexpected threat to our safety? A mid-Atlantic blast exacerbated by electric vehicles. In mid-February 2022, the 650-foot-long Felicity Ace, carrying about 4,000 cars across the Atlantic, caught fire. The cargo ship was traveling from Germany to the U.S. Fortunately, all 22 crew members were able to be evacuated off the ship without harm. Though not blamed for starting the fire, batteries from luxury cars on board, like Porsches and Bentleys, may have intensified the blast by keeping the fire alive. Lithium-ion fires burn at higher temperatures, even known to melt the pavement below. So, though not blamed for starting the fire, so what started the fire? The captain of the nearest port in Azorian Island said the cause of the fire was unclear, but specialty equipment was needed to extinguish the blaze. Come on. Seriously, specialty equipment? So you're saying that a fire extinguisher or water doesn't work? Well, then it must be originating from a lithium-ion battery. A big part of the fire that kept burning involved the batteries from the crammed electric vehicles on board. According to Insider, the vessel remained smoldering off the coast of Portugal's Azores Islands. I do have the video for this. Oh. Is this really... it's just gonna be one of those. Let's see if this one does better.
A cargo ship carrying luxury cars caught fire at sea, and Portugal's Air Force was sent in to rescue the crew. It happened off the coast of the Azores. 22 crew members of the Felicity Ace were evacuated by the Air Force and the Navy, and no one was injured. But they left behind 4,000 luxury vehicles on board, including Audis, Porsches, and Bentleys to burn. Their retail value was estimated at $400 million. While it's unclear what started the fire, officials say lithium-ion batteries in some of the electric vehicles ignited and made the blaze harder to fight, requiring specialty equipment. The fire is reportedly dying down as officials say there's little left to burn. Towing vessels are now en route to bring the ship into port somewhere in Europe or in the Bahamas. And it seems many Americans who were awaiting their sweet new rides are going to have to wait a little longer. For Inside Edition.
Nothing about the environmental cause or problems that happen if the ship sinks and all the cars go to the bottom of the ocean. Not going to talk about that? No? And we don't know if the lithium-ion battery started it. It's freaking ridiculous. Though electric vehicle fires are rare, when they do happen, they're much more difficult to put out. Because of the way EVs are powered, when the cars get into serious accidents, their damaged energy cells trigger long burning fires, and unfortunately many first responders are caught off guard. On April 17th of 2021 in Houston, firefighters responded to a crashed Tesla Model S that killed 2 people and was still on fire. NBC News reported that the firefighters extinguished it, but then a small flare shot out of the bottom of the charred Hulk. They quickly put out those flames. Not long after, the car reignited for a 3rd time. Electric vehicles have also been known to reignite days later. Holy crap! I didn't even know that. Days later. It was after these heroes consulted Tesla's guide for first responders that they realized they needed much more water and manpower to defeat the high-voltage battery pack. 8 firefighters, 7 hours, and 28,000 gallons of water later, the blaze was finally doused. Well, you know, what's 28,000 gallons when Gotion EV battery plant's going to take 38,000 gallons per hour? 22 hours a day, 6 days a week. So yeah, what's 28,000 gallons? I'm being obviously sarcastic. Sound like a lot of water? It is. It is. It's enough to serve a fire department for a month, or the average household for 2 years. For reference, it usually only takes 300 gallons of water to extinguish flames from an internal combustion car. Aren't these vehicles supposed to be eco-friendly? First responders lack essential training for electric vehicles. Though many firefighters have banded together to share knowledge about these destructive blazes, not enough have received proper training for these types of incidents. EV education is also tricky due to frequent industry changes and recalls. Time is of the essence, and for first responders to understand the key differences between handling an electric vehicle versus a gas-powered car. According to NBC News, IHS predicts that 1 in 10 cars are expected to be electric by 2025. Yeah, because the government is pushing it on us, not because of natural demand. In fact, the late 2020, the National Transportation Safety Board published a report that criticized the inadequacy of all first responder guides from manufacturers. Electric disconnection mechanisms, cut loops, are deemed useless in most crashes because at that point they're often damaged as well, and vehicle-specific details for suppressing these dangerous fires are surprisingly absent. For many fire departments, it's now standard procedure to dump the entire EV into a container filled with water to ensure the fire is well and truly out, according to driving. Difficult to do on the Facility Ace, where there are no dousing containers, and retrieving one of the tightly packed cars to toss into the ocean is near impossible. Well, good news, guys. The whole boat sank and all of them are in the ocean, so fire is out. It seems, and thankfully everyone's safe, except for the bottom of the ocean has to deal with it. And don't get me wrong, intelligent design will take care of it. I have full faith in that. But the bottom line is we shouldn't be having cars on the bottom of the ocean. We should keep it clean, right? It seems like the only way to cool down the inferno could be to sink the ship. Well, that's what happened. Unfortunately, the Facility Ace did sink to the bottom of the ocean while it was being towed about 250 miles from the Azores island. A salvage team had finally extinguished the flames before watching it descend. Automakers won't reveal how much inventory they lost, and the ecological damage to the ocean will be staggering. Hey, this is the first article that has actually mentioned the damage to the ocean. So, hey, good job, Get Jerry. According to the New York Daily News, the ship could have held more than 2,000 tons of fuel, 2,000 tons of oil, and nearly 19,000 tons of cargo, including the lithium batteries. The Portuguese Air Force and Navy will monitor the scene. Yeah. What else can be said? They said it for me. It's dangerous, it's hard to put out, firefighters aren't ready, the batteries reignite, toxic fumes. That's why the original poster thing that I can't think of what it's called right now, flyer. The initial flyer had fire and the Chinese connections and environmental concerns with the water because it's going to be right on the Muskegon River for this battery plant. Those were my three initial concerns. And as you can see, fire is a big one. So this one is not technically about fires, so I'm going to just say that up front, but it is about the EV batteries not being able to survive a scratch. So if they get into an accident and they don't blow up on you and kill you, then your car is worthless and you spent $60, $80, $100,000, and it'll probably tell me how much a battery's worth. So we'll get into it. April 4th of 2023, this came out yesterday. After losing power for 10 of 14 days between the ice storm of late February and the thunder snow of early March, Kathleen Russ of Royal Oak testified to Michigan lawmakers that she would not accept an EV right now if you gave me one. Russ lost 2 refrigerator loads of groceries and had to inconvenience friends by sleeping at their homes during the outage. An electric vehicle would have compounded her problem, she told lawmakers. With no reliable way to charge the vehicle, she would have been paying for Uber rides to and from work. And sorry, real quick, this is out of Michigan Capital Confidential.com. A report in Reuters last week points towards another problem for the electric vehicle, durability after a crash. Specifically, the electric vehicle's battery is a problem. For many electric vehicles, there is no way to repair or assess even slightly damaged battery packs after accidents, forcing insurance companies to write off cars with few miles, leading to higher premiums and undercutting gains from going electric. We're buying electric cars for sustainability reasons, said Matthew Avery, research director at automotive risk intelligence company Thatcham Research. But an EV isn't very sustainable if you got to throw the battery away after a minor collision. Jason Hayes, the Mackinac Center's Director of Energy and Environmental Policy, told Capcom he sees worrying signs for the electric vehicle despite government subsidies. Yes, of course. Despite government subsidies, they're just wasting our money. We've recently learned that Ford will lose $3 billion on EVs this year, on top of $2 billion in losses last year, Hayes said. Those losses are happening even with profits on Ford's far more reliable internal combustion engine sales and massive infusions of federal cash. For its part, GM is laying off hundreds of white-collar employees as it hemorrhages enormous amounts of capital into EVs and watches overall vehicle sales drop in this inflation-plagued economy. You have to ask yourself, if it's not about profits and it's not about environment, then what is it about? Hayes, why are they pushing it? Hayes noted that range anxiety, or the fear that an EV won't be able to get to point B without recharging, along with high price of EV, is a barrier to mass adoption. Well, good news is they're going to try to corral us all in 15-minute cities, and most of us won't have a vehicle for ourselves if they have their way. Is that the kind of society you want to live in? That's Industry 4.0. That's the fourth industrial revolution that these people are trying to bring in. If that's not enough, if that's not bad enough, customers are now having to face the fact that a minor fender bender could lead to the loss of their entire vehicle. Hayes said, "Who knows what this is going to do to insurance rates? At what point will we admit this was a bad idea and stick with reliable and effective technologies?" Governor Gretchen Whitmer wants 2 million EVs on Michigan roads by 2030. Why 2030? And she has enlisted both the Michigan Public Service Commission and the Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy to advance that goal. Eagle. What a joke. Michigan had 17,500 EVs registered in 2021 per the U.S. Department of Energy. Yeah, I mean, if you're in Michigan and have an EV, you better have another car. Because if you can't charge it, and yeah, you could freeze to death in the middle of winter. I've gone over a video in another video about a guy who did almost freeze to death in his car because he had an electric car and he couldn't find anywhere to charge it in a winter storm. I think that those are all of the articles that I have to share with you. I really appreciate you being here. Again, if you found value from this video, please smash that like button. Hit the bell notification if you want to be notified anytime I go live. And thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.